Now then YouTube, welcome to another video. I'm just out for a drive today. It's Father's Day in the UK. I'm just off to see my dad, hence the... Anyway, I'm out in the E46, want to go for a drive, and it's recently surpassed the 1 year marker that I've owned this car. So I thought now would be a good time to do one of those, you know, 1 year, 12 months on, how's it been videos that so many YouTubers do, but there's a lot to cover and there's a lot that I want to talk about, which I've done in the first year. Some of the perhaps not issues that I've had, but certainly some of the modifications that I've done, which I feel have really exposed the potential of what an E46 M3 can be. Right, let's start by having this walk around. I want to show you some of the things on the exterior. Like I say, there's some things that you can't quite see either, so we'll go through them. If this is the first time that you've watched one of my videos, the car is pretty dirty, and it usually is, to be honest. I clean it now and again, but I'm the kind of person who would much rather drive the car than clean it. You know, it's nice to have a nice clean car and things, but if it comes between driving the car or cleaning it, which I guess today kind of did, then I'd always pick driving it. Okay, we'll start with a quick history lesson on the car. If you're not aware, this is my 2002 E46 M3. The colour is estural blue. You might not have seen it before. It's somewhat of a rare colour, but you see it in a lot of modern BMWs these days. They've kind of brought it back. Started in the 90s, and then the E46 M3 got it, and yeah, I had to have it in this colour. I've always wanted estural blue, so that's how we got to this one. Bought the car last year after looking for quite a long time. I'd wanted an E46 M3 for a long time before buying this one, but I managed to get one, just the right spec and everything. The price was right, estural blue, black interior, 6-speed manual, everything that I wanted. So when I bought the car, it was completely original. The only difference was, we come around the back. Now the car's got the LED rear tail lights, which it shouldn't have being a 2002 car, but these are on the facelift cars, which are on kind of 2003, 2004 onwards. So it shouldn't have them, but I am glad it does, because it does really freshen up the rear end, and it's not something that I would have probably done. I would have kept the original lights, but it's kind of nice to have the newer style ones. So let's start the walk around. We'll start from the back end. So it has got a different exhaust system on. It's just an OEM system, which has been debaffled slightly. It's not loud, it's really quite quiet, to be honest. You can just get a bit more bass out of the exhaust, which is kind of what you need, I think. The OEM exhaust sounds okay, just a bit, it's very raspy standard. And I mean, it's still very raspy now, but it's got a bit more bass to it, which is what I wanted. Now there are a wide array of aftermarket exhaust systems for these cars, but as you can imagine they are pretty expensive. Some of the cheaper ones like the Miltex and that aren't too bad, but to be honest I'm happy with the stock system as it is. So I've got the stock exhaust all the way through, stock cats and everything like that. I've got stock intake, I've not modified the airbox or anything like that. Everything with the intake and the exhaust is original, as is the ECU and everything. That's all just as it left BMW. So what I have changed on the car is just a few basic things just to make the car drive better, because they're not too bad standard, these things. But when I got the car, it had, you know, old knackered tyres and old knackered suspension on it. You know, it was a 14, was it 15, 16? Now the car would have been 15 years old when I got it, so we can expect a few things to be worn. So originally the car had 19s in it. They've been changed for the square OEM 18s. These took a bit of a while to find, but I managed to get some on M3 cutters for a reasonable price. So these wheels would normally be the rears on an 18-inch wheel car. I much prefer the 18s to the 19s. I know a lot of people like the 19s, but the 18s are for me. And the brakes, I've upgraded the front brakes to the Porsche 986 Boxster S 4-piston calipers. So there's plenty of people doing this. Really, perhaps not a cheap upgrade, but it certainly is when you compare it to the AP racing and things like that. So the Porsche kit cost me about it was about 650 quid. I had to buy some new pads for them, which were quite expensive, so I'm probably about £1,000 into this brake kit now, but it really does have the stopping power. And, you know, to say it's a full weight car, which it is on the inside, look, we've got a Recaro pole position for the driver, but the rest of the interior is stock and a bit of a mess, cup holders, yay. Yeah, it is quite a weighty car, and the brakes do the best. You know, I'm pretty sure the braking performance could be better, but at the same time we've got a lot of weight in this car, so you know, for what it is, they're pretty good. Now the tyres I went for this car are Yokohama 808Rs, and we've got 255 on all four corners. A lot of people... Oh yeah. Hiya. More cyclists. Now a lot of people choose to go 265 square on the E46 M3, and they'll go for a stickier tyre than the 808R as well, but
I don't know, sometimes when I reflect on a Nürburgring trip, I sometimes wish I would have got something a bit stickier and a bit wider, but at the same time, the 255 808R was a lot of fun at the ring. If you've watched any of my onboards, you'll have seen that the car was not loose, but it was very easy to get to have some fun in, let's say. And yeah, I'm happy with the tyre choice. And on the road, the 255s are great because, you know, there's a bit of tram lining and there's a bit of, you know, the car darting about a bit, but certainly not anything like you'd get with a 265 sticky track tyre like an AR1 or an R888R or something like that. Yeah, the 808Rs are just, I've said it before, they're my favourite road tyre. I think they're really good for on the road. On the suspension side of things, we've got BC Racing coilovers, and then we've got a few Powerflex bushes here and there. So they're the BCBR, I think, coilovers. So we've got the front coilover and the rear shock and spring. On my E46 I had the full coilover system, but these came up second hand on the M3 cutters for them again. I say that if you've got an E46 M3 and you want to get some aftermarket parts on it at a reasonable price, there's a lot of second hand parts come up on this M3 cutters for them, and it's basically I've got the brakes off it, the wheels off it, the coilovers, and the exhaust. So, you know, I've got 4 big items there off this forum second hand, and, you know, I've not had an issue with any of them, and pretty much everyone I've dealt with been a top chap as well. So if you've got an E46 M3, then yeah, I recommend you go on there. Is there anything else that I've changed and I've not told you about? Brake pads, I've got Dixel Type RA in the front. Yeah, Dixel Type RA, they were quite expensive, but they're pretty good. I had to buy them at the Nürburgring. In the back I've got Mintex 1155, which are a pretty decent pad. Pretty noisy though. They seem, well, both are noisy now. When I first put the Mintex in, I had the Padged pads at the front, and the Padgeds were quiet, and then the Mintexes were loud, and now on the road the Dixel and the Mintex are quite loud. So the roads that we're on at the minute are quite narrow and not the best really for a blast, but we'll work our way towards them. I can see that GoPro is shaking a lot. Hopefully the pitch is not too bad. So one of the things that I forgot to mention when I was doing the exterior shot, there's something that you couldn't see, was the steering rack. Now I've changed it for a much faster one, and we've also got an aluminium coupler on there on the UJ going down to the rack from the column. And if you've driven a stock E46 M3, the CSLs have got a different rack, so it must just be a stock E46 M3. You might have noticed that the steering's a bit slow. You might not have done, you might have thought it was fine, but because my E36 had this rack, and you know, I quite enjoyed the fast steering, I had to get one on here. So we've got a purple Tag 067 steering rack. You've heard me say that plenty of times if you're a veteran on the channel, but if you're new, it's a faster steering rack from other E46 models. It's really good. It's the steering on the car, since fitting the aluminium coupler and the faster steering rack, it just feels great. And the 255 as well, we've got a lot of feedback from the front end, which is something that when I got the car originally last year, I just didn't have any of that. You might have seen my video last year giving my initial thoughts on the E46 M3. And that was quite a controversial one, because I've always been honest when I've been making these YouTube videos. I've always, you know, said exactly what it is. You know, I'm not one to beat around the bush, and I criticised the E46 M3 being, you know, a bit meh, especially in the steering department. And I referenced my E36, saying my E36 felt like it steered better, and a lot of you were like, oh yeah, E36s, man, they're better, man. And a lot of you were like, oh, you can't, how can you say an E36 is better than an E46 M3? You don't know now. Look, these cars underneath, the E36 and the E46, they're pretty much identical. There's a few changes here and there, but there's not a lot to them. There's not a lot of differences, and you can't just blindly say an E36 drives better than an E46. There's far too many variables. And what I was trying to make clear in my previous video, which I don't think a lot of people got, was that I'd modified my E36 to have better steering. I changed things. I get the E36 had a faster steering rack as well, and it had, you know, a few different modifications to improve the steering on it. Like from the factory in E36, I would probably be moaning about the steering like I was moaning about on this, but you know, I modified my E36 to turn better, and that's what we've done with the E46 as well, and it really does turn better. So if you've got an E46 and it's stock, and maybe you're not happy with the steering, the faster steering rack, it cost me 60 quid to get the rack, and then, you know, the aluminium coupler was like 20 quid, and, you know, I got new inner and outer tie rods as well, which I think come to about I can't remember, but the job altogether is it's not an expensive one, is what I'm trying to get to. You know, you're talking about 200, 250 maybe, depends if you do the work yourself as well, but it's not difficult to do the steering rack, and it does make a massive difference. So that's one of my definite favourite kind of budgety mods that you can do to an E46. Other things that I've done to the car, or that I've noticed over the years ownership. Now, I've not actually had any issues with the car. The only things that I've been changing, you know, the only times I've had to get the tools out has been to upgrade things or modify things. I've not had, you know, the car's never let me down, or it's never flagged up with a warning light. I've never had an engine management light or anything like that. Fair enough, I've only done 3,000 miles, so it's not a massive test, but, you know, when I drive the car, I don't drive it just to commute or anything like that. I drive it just to enjoy driving it. So when I'm driving it, I'm usually driving it properly, let's say. So to not have any issues from the car in those 3,000 miles, yeah, it's pretty good. It's stayed pretty strong. At the end of the day, it's a 16-year-old M car. I was expecting to have a few more issues than this. And these cars are a bit of a minefield. There are tons and tons of little issues that you can have with them. If you just have a look on the internet, you'll see loads of people having a lot of specific kind of common issues with these E46 M3s. And I've had none of that so far, which is great. And, you know, touch wood, there's no wood to touch, but I'll hopefully continue having many more miles. I've tried not to get too in depth with the worrying about stuff, because I'm a bit of a worrier, and, you know, if you look at the common problems, there's a few of them, and they're all expensive. You know, the head gaskets, the boot floor, the rust, the vanos, there's the main end bearings. There's a lot of stuff which can go wrong on these cars. Now, it feels like I've got a good one, and, you know, I've been to the Nürburgring. It took all that abuse, and it's come back, and it's not even, you know, I expected at least an EML for something, but I've not had anything. So yeah, I'm really happy. The reliability in my experience has been great, but then again, it's only been 3,000 miles. One thing that I don't like so much is the sport button. I see a lot of people when they're on track, they have the sport button engaged. All it does is makes the throttle response a bit faster. It kind of shortens the throttle pedal travel in a sense, and I've never really got on with it, to be honest. I kind of like all the travel that you get with the throttle pedal as it is, and all the sport button does, as I say, it just makes it faster. So I don't know. It's kind of useful for heel and towing, but at the same time, once you learn how to do it without the sport button, then you don't really need it. Always take an opportunity. Get back. Now these corners are really nice, and we'll be able to kind of show you what I mean when I say it turns really fast. Remember, we're only on these BC Racing coilovers as well. So the car's great, I really like it. There's so much more that I'd like to do to it to make it kind of faster on track and faster. Well, at the Nürburgring really is the main one. There's a lot of stuff I could do, strip it out, get some stickier tyres, and it'd be faster than Nürburgring. But I wanted an E46 M3 for a long time, and it's just going to be one of those cars where I'm just going to take my time with it. I enjoy driving it when I do get to drive it. Whenever I have to go somewhere, just something like this, like a family occasion, I'll take the M3 every time. It's just nice to give it a run, and it's a great car to drive. Right, so we're coming to the end of the video. Like I said, I just want to give you a quick overview, give you my thoughts a year on. I still really like it, and I still really like driving it. I've not got my 4.1 final driving yet. If anyone's been following the journey, I've not got the 4.1 final driving yet. I want to get that done soon, but there's a lot of other stuff. You've probably seen some of the woes that I've been having with my other cars recently, so there's quite a lot of other stuff going on, and I've just it's not really been at the front of my mind to get the 4.1 fitted. So it's something I'd like to get done this year though, so, you know, we'll see. Right, so, I mean, I'll give you a quick overview of the E46. A lot of you already knew all about it already, so, you know, I'm probably teaching a lot of you how to suck eggs, but if you've got any questions, anything like that, bob them down in the comments. I'll keep my eye on the comments on this one. Any E46 M3 questions. A question that I get a lot, and I don't really like answering it, is what do you prefer, that or your DC2? And I don't really like answering questions like that. It's like when someone asks me what's my favourite band, what's my favourite indie band, what's my favourite 70s band. You know, when someone asks you what's your favourite or something, I don't really think like that. So those questions are quite hard for me to answer. The E46 and the DC2 are very different cars, and you know, I like driving them both. And I'm a driver at the end of the day. I like driving cars. I don't have favourites. You know, it's not really one for me to answer. Now, I read a lot of the comments on the DC2 video. There's hundreds of comments, and I've not really had time to go through them all, but there was a similar theme where I saw quite a few people saying just leave it for now, have a think, have a break, and that's kind of what I did. Took a couple of days off, tried to stop thinking about it, and then yeah, it's a car that I don't want to let go. And a lot of people were saying reshell it, and you don't understand how expensive Integra shells are in the UK. We only got the Type R, so we can't just go and get like a normal Integra shell. And the risk of getting another shell as well is this shell's going to be, you know, 20 years old as well, and chances are it's going to be rusty and needing work anyway. So my thought is, if I do want an Integra, which I do want a fast front-wheel drive Integra, because, you know, the best chassis and all that, I may as well just fix my own. And I also made reference in the video saying that it never drove quite right post-crash, which is kind of true, but there are a lot of variables there, and I kind of wish I hadn't said that to the internet, because I think it's probably something that I should have just kept in mind and sulked to myself about. There's a lot of different things on the car. Like the tyres that I had on at the Nürburgring, they were E46s, but they were from a suspicious source, and they were a couple of years old, so they were brand new when I bought them. But you know, it could have been the tyres, it could have been a lot of different things, it could have been wheel alignment. There's too many variables, and I can't just say, oh, it was that, because don't forget, the car was the fastest it's ever been at the Nürburgring, even with, you know, being fixed from the accident repair and everything. So I don't think I should really be blaming that. I say there's a lot of variables. The car still did 8 minutes flat as it was at the Nürburgring, so you know, there's no reason with some kind of better tyres, and obviously with the K24 being perhaps a better engine for the Nürburgring as well. We'll see, we're not tested it, but I think it should be alright, that shell. Obviously it's not alright, it's pretty fucked, but I think we can probably make something from it.